You know, I don't know what you guys think of when you think of the last pay-per-view of the decade. I don't know what you think of when you think of the last pay-per-view of the year. Maybe I'm just one of those guys that hopes for too much. It's not how I would do things. What I watched tonight is not how I would do things. It's like, nobody even cares. Nobody even cares. You know, if you're going to hype a show to be the last pay-per-view of not only the year, but the last pay-per-view of the decade, you should really go all out and get people excited about what's to come in the year 2020 at the start of a new decade. I've seen people praising this show. I've seen people praising the main event. I don't know what they were watching tonight. This pay-per-view peaked at the 8 p.m. hour. We got two great matches to start this show tonight. We're going to go over everything on this podcast. Believe me, I got extensive notes all written right here, right in front of me. The show peaked at 9 o'clock. That was it. I'm like, oh my goodness, we got a decent pay-per-view going on right now. After that 9 o'clock hour, it seemed like everything had fallen off a cliff. We were in the middle of an avalanche, and it could not be stopped. We got one little glimmer of hope in the middle of that show with Bray Wyatt, The Miz, and Daniel Bryan. And then after that, it went right back to being shit. I know if I'm WWE, I'm ending the year on a high note. I don't know how they could have ended the year on a high note. This pay-per-view was given 3 weeks build. And I'm being generous in saying 3-week build. This was more like a 1-week build. Nobody even realized there was a pay-per-view until this week's go-home show. If you can even consider those shows go-home shows. 3 weeks coming out of the Survivor Series and they're right back on pay-per-view. It's not how I would do things. I mentioned this on the podcast that this show should not have taken place tonight. There's no need for a gimmick pay-per-view to close the year. There's no need for a TLC show 3 weeks after the Survivor Series, which was probably the best pay-per-view that WWE put on all year. No need for it. There was a simple solution to make WWE programming worthwhile to close out the decade. And that was make Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, which are two shows that absolutely need any type of momentum they could get. Take whatever you put on this show and put them on Raw and put them on SmackDown and really close the shows out and give those shows a pay-per-view feel instead of putting all of this nonsense on one show and having it all suck at the same time. This show was not a thumbs-up show. This was not a thumbs-up show. And WWE closed out not only the year, but the decade in the same fashion that WWE usually goes about things, in mediocrity. This was not a good show tonight. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't give a shit what you watched or what you liked from the show. There was good and there was more bad. There was good and there was more bad. Typical WWE show. Buried in mediocrity. Buried in a company that doesn't give a shit. Buried in a company that will continue to go into 2020 and not change a goddamn thing about the way that they do things on Raw and on SmackDown. It is a sad state right now in that entire company. It is a sad time to be a fan of this company, of anything outside of NXT. And I don't even know why I have to sit here on a Sunday night and watch this shit. I really wish I didn't. I really wish I didn't. There was a few bright spots on this show tonight. The opening match with the New Day and the Revival, they killed everything in that tag team match, and it gives you hope as to where they go with the tag team titles. Will they go anywhere? Probably not. Probably not. I don't expect anybody to do anything with the tag team championships, but we'll see. When you got teams like that, it's very difficult to look at the WWE and think, how do you have teams like this and you don't utilize the tag team division in the way that it should be utilized? I don't get it. I really don't understand it. They killed the opening match. Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy, again, we'll go over it and what they did in that match tonight. How you have two guys like this on the mid-card, on Monday Night Raw, and the mid-card is as bad as it currently sits right now. Show peaked at 9 o'clock. Then we got Bray Wyatt and The Miz. We'll go over exactly what happened in that match. We got the return of the American Dragon, Daniel Bryan. He came back. The match itself was not good, but it was what happened in the ending of that match that really got us excited. It was Bray Wyatt's performance that got us excited. And everything else on this show was a complete fucking disaster, including the main event, which I'm going to go on record and say, and I don't give a shit who blasts me for this whatsoever, that was a match that in no way, shape, or form should have main evented this show at all. At all. WWE did not learn a goddamn thing about what had happened at the Survivor Series. They had Becky Lynch, they had Shayna Baszler, and they had Bayley, and all three of those women failed to deliver an intriguing main event. And the same thing happened here again tonight. How could you get me to care about the tag team titles when you yourself don't give a shit about the tag team titles? Why are you putting the women in the main event on a show when the women of 2019 are a shell of what the women of 2018 did? Why are you putting the women in the main event on this show, no matter if it's a TLC show or not? Why are you putting them in the main event when clearly the women are not a focus? They are not a spotlight on any of these shows throughout this entire build. They haven't been a spotlighted fucking feature on the show all year coming out of WrestleMania, and you're still putting the women in the main event of these shows when they don't deserve it. Needless to say, you might not agree with that. You might not agree with that. I don't think that they deserve it. And the storylines itself and the story that they have told with Becky Lynch and Charlotte and the Kabuki Warriors certainly doesn't deserve it. There's no way anybody's going to convince me that that match should have main evented the show over the returning Daniel Bryan and the American Dragon Daniel Bryan at that. And what's going on with him and the story that he's telling with Bray Wyatt. You're not going to convince me of that. This was a mediocre show. Thumbs down in the end. It was a mediocre show. WWE failed to deliver as always. Don't see how they could possibly deliver on 3 weeks build. 1 week if you really want to dissect it. And the WWE closed out the decade in typical fashion with a thumbs down show. Doesn't give you much hope going into the Royal Rumble now, does it? This is Off the Script. I am JD. Thank you guys so very much for joining me here on the podcast. If you want to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that. Hit that thumbs up down below. We are going to go into everything on this show tonight. Thumbs it up. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell. You guys know the deal. We are here 7 days a week. We do the pro wrestling thing here in the community better than anybody. So thank you guys so much for joining me here tonight. Follow me on social media. And thank you guys so very much for tweeting along with me on social media this evening during the show at JD from NY206. That's both on Twitter and Instagram. So thank you guys so much for tweeting live with me during TLC. We'll be right back at it on Monday Night Raw and throughout the week for NXT, AEW, and SmackDown on Friday. Make sure you guys check out all the other videos that you might have missed on the channel. I know YouTube has been the most broken it's been all year, so make sure you guys go and check that out, man. I got tons of videos, tons of content. Anything you guys want in the week of pro wrestling, I got it covered between WWE and AEW. So make sure you guys check that out. And this weekend's Off the Script was fucking fantastic. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Episode 304. We'll be right back at it next weekend with episode 305. So we go over a variety of topics. We talk about the upcoming Royal Rumble. We talk about how NXT might possibly be in the Royal Rumble and have a major presence at WrestleMania. We talk about Corey Graves and his statement on Charlotte. Paige got involved and says that we need another all-women's pay-per-view. I absolutely argue that point. Ton of content on the podcast this weekend. Everything you guys need will be linked down below in the description of this very video. Shout out to Mikey for the layout that you see here tonight. Shout out to Sal Rex for the thumbnail that you guys see in your sub boxes. Those two guys make the channel look as good as it does every single week, every single major pay-per-view, so thanks to them. If you guys want to support on the podcast via Patreon, you guys can certainly do so. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. And quickly, guys, the podcast tonight is brought to you by Audible. audibletrial.com/offthescript. 30 days free of their service. One free audiobook just for signing up. It's a great deal. Great way to support Audible. Great way to support the podcast. That's audibletrial.com/offthescript. TLC tonight, man. Pre-show. Andrade Humberto Carrillo. I'm not going to go into my my stretching out of the Humberto. We're just going to go right into the match. I'm all business tonight. No games here tonight. Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo. This was a rematch from Monday Night Raw. WWE figured, you know what, these guys had a good match. Let's try and repeat what they did on Monday Night Raw on the pre-show. It is what it is. This match meant nothing in the end. Andrade clearly is in a storyline with himself here with Zelina Vega. They are teasing the breakup of this duo, which I don't understand why. And if they are teasing the breakup of this duo, I hope that Zelina Vega goes on to manage somebody else, which we'll talk about in a second. Maybe Andrade gets paired with Charlotte Flair, being that they're a real-life couple. I don't know. Again, we'll talk about that at the end of the match. Carrillo was on the defensive for this match, and he tried to make a comeback. He leapt out of the ring, taking Andrade down to the outside. Carrillo brings it back into the ring for a 2 count. Andrade, he gets hung up on the top rope after missing a kick. Carrillo goes to the top. He hits a missile dropkick for another close 2 count. Carrillo goes back up top. Andrade cuts him off and stops him. Andrade climbs up, but Carrillo hits him with a forearm. Andrade recovers, knocks Carrillo into position for a double stomp. Now, I hate spots like this. It's like when you see guys hanging on the middle rope and they're waiting for the move to be done, whether it's going to be an elbow drop or a knee drop or something that they're going to deliver. You had Carrillo just hanging out on the middle rope here. He was hanging over the apron to the outside, and he's holding himself up in position, waiting for Andrade to balance himself on the top rope and then deliver a double foot stomp down. There was no way at all. There was nothing from Humberto to pull himself away, to maybe drop down so that Andrade misses the double foot stomp. He just hung himself up and held himself up in position, literally waiting for Andrade to do this move. It looks stupid. It looks stupid. It doesn't look realistic. I can't really believe that I'm watching somebody just wait for a move to be done with no struggle of moving out of the way. It just looks ridiculous. Am I the only one who thinks this? I mean, when you book a match and you produce a match, can you at least throw some realism into the goddamn thing? It looked ridiculous that he just stood there waiting for Andrade to do the double foot stomp. He hits it. He hits the double foot stomp, stomping Carrillo from the top outside to the floor. So Andrade brings it back in. Fans are chanting, holy shit. Carrillo kicks out at 2. Fans are chanting, this is awesome. Match is good, but it's not worth a this is awesome chant. Andrade suffering. Apparently is suffering from a cut above his eye. Now, I don't know what had happened here. I don't know when it happened or where it happened, but he was noticeably bleeding. He was wiping his eye. He was wiping the blood going into his eye. Both are in the middle of the ring now trading shots. Andrade lands a huge clothesline. They both go down. Both men back up top on the 3rd turnbuckle. Carrillo knocks Andrade to the mat, slow to make the cover. Then he just doesn't make the cover. He doesn't make the cover at all. Andrade backdrops Carrillo into the turnbuckles. Andrade then charges into the corner, hits his double knees. And Carrillo, obviously, at this point, reeling. So we have Andrade go for a cover, 2 count. Everybody kicks out of Andrade's double knees. They're one of the most devastating moves on Raw. Everybody kicks out of it. Carrillo blocks the hammerlock DDT because that's what usually follows. In the same spot we seen on Raw, Zelina Vega gets on the apron, avoids getting knocked off the apron by Humberto. He stops again. Or Andrade. I think it was Andrade who ran in. And Humberto from behind Andrade, he rolls up Andrade again, but this time Andrade kicks out. So Andrade this time stopped. He did not knock Zelina Vega off the apron. So we get a roll-up, and this time Andrade kicks out. Carrillo takes advantage with a roll-up, 2 count. Andrade with a suplex. Climbs up looking for a moonsault. Carrillo comes in from behind. Carrillo climbs up top on top of Andrade's back. And he hits a big super inverted hurricanrana where Andrade landed right on his face for a big pop. Carrillo goes right back up top. He goes for a moonsault. This thing was absolutely picture perfect, beautiful. He was square center right in the middle of the ring, and Humberto got some height, he got some distance, and he nailed that perfectly, man. One of the best moonsaults probably of the year. Nailed Andrade with it. He gets the win, and Humberto defeats Andrade again for a 2nd time this week after the first victory came on Monday Night Raw. After the match, we got Zelina and Andrade arguing again, and it looked like this time Andrade was fed up enough where he just walked away from Zelina and wanted nothing to do with her. Now, I don't like this. I really don't like, I don't like Andrade losing twice to Humberto because we heard rumors of Vince McMahon just being completely over Humberto. And then we got Zelina Vega and Andrade breaking up. It looks like they're breaking up. And the reason why Humberto beat Andrade is because they're pushing this angle where he is going to distance himself from Zelina Vega. I don't like that. I don't like it. Andrade's been on the main roster for quite some time now. Roughly about 2 years. Probably a little bit more than 2 years. And to break the act up now is, to me, a complete waste of the entire act. They never even came close to what they did in NXT. They pulled them, WWE did, from NXT. They put them on SmackDown. They put them on Raw. And they literally did nothing with the entire act. Zelina Vega has not been a good accessory for Andrade during his entire stint on the main roster. You got Zelina Vega helping him win matches against Sin Cara, outside interferences with Sin Cara and Apollo Crews and guys like that. They never really embraced how important Zelina Vega was to Andrade like she was in NXT. It was always, oh, she's a pretty face and she's a very attractive female coming out with Andrade. They never really embraced the act. They never got going at all. There was zero momentum. Nothing ever happened with them. And I feel like WWE's breaking them up way too soon, and they've accomplished nothing together. She was not a vital part of him winning a championship. She was not a vital part of him winning a big match. Nothing. Now they're splitting them up because he can't beat Humberto Carrillo. It's just a sad thing to look at after watching him have such an incredible run. And you guys know what I'm talking about. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you know where Andrade came from. There was a point in his life, in his WWE run, where he didn't want to be with the company anymore. He sought outside help from Alberto Del Rio, who he's friends with. And Del Rio actually convinced him to stay. And friends of his convinced him to give it another shot. He was losing matches. He didn't give a shit. He went about matches, and you could see watching the old Andrade before they paired him with Zelina Vega, he just didn't give a shit. Then they paired him with Zelina Vega, and you've seen this renewed, found just, attitude. And he actually wanted to be there. He started winning matches. They changed his look. They changed his style. They changed his attitude. And he won the NXT Championship. And that was the best we've ever seen of Andrade. Matches with Gargano. Matches with, Aleister Black. Everybody. Guy was putting on fucking 5-star matches with everybody. Comes to the main roster, and they just don't embrace the gimmick. They did not ever embrace the gimmick. They didn't even come close to what they did in NXT, and it's just a sad thing. Now, where does Andrade go? Is he going to be a babyface? I don't want to see Andrade as a babyface. Does Andrade speak good enough English where he could survive on his own, or is he going to fucking sink like I expect him to without a mouthpiece? Where does Zelina Vega go? Where does Zelina Vega go? Does she go and manage somebody else? Maybe she goes and gets paired with her real-life husband in Aleister Black. Maybe they're a pair. Maybe Andrade gets paired with Charlotte, and we get Andrade paired with his real-life fiancée in Charlotte. And being that Zelina Vega went to her real-life husband, maybe we get Andrade and Zelina Vega feuding with, or Andrade and Charlotte feuding with Zelina Vega and Aleister Black. Could be a possibility. I'm down for that. I don't know if Andrade is going to come out of that victorious, being that Aleister Black is right now got the hot hand on Monday Night Raw. But what are they going to do with Andrade if they don't pair him with anybody? Is he going to be able to survive on his own? Vince is not going to push anybody if they don't speak the proper English language. And I don't know if Andrade is at that point yet. I think this is way too soon. I think this is premature. And WWE's making a mistake by taking Zelina away from Andrade and them not embracing the full gimmick. And them not embracing what power the duo could have if booked correctly. It's just been a fucking failure. Ever since day one, Andrade has been a failure on the main roster. And for WWE to do that, that is a clear indication that they don't know the type of talent that they have on the main roster. I hope that's not the case, but it certainly looks like that's where we're headed. That was the only match on the pre-show. We got the main show starting with the New Day versus the Revival for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. This is a ladder match. The New Day retained in an excellent, and I mean excellent, opening match. Now, we all knew the Revival were not going to win this thing because they were simply a replacement team for Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, who were the original scheduled opponents for the New Day. Bobby Roode got suspended. WWE knew of this well before TLC even came about, and they suspended Bobby Roode as of this week. 30 days, drug violation. We don't know for what he was suspended for. So Dolph Ziggler right now is operating with Baron Corbin without his tag team partner. In come the Revival. They win a fatal 4-way on SmackDown against Heavy Machinery, Ali, and Gable. And who else was it? I don't even remember. Maybe, who else? The Lucha House Party. Forgive me for not remembering the Lucha House Party. So they were not the original opponents for the New Day. They were actually a secondary team in place of Roode and Ziggler, and that is pretty much where they stand. So right then and there, you knew that they were not going to win this match. Now, the match itself did not try to be a huge spot fest. The last time we seen a ladder match was with the Young Bucks and the Lucha House. The Lucha House. Jesus Christ, I'm disrespecting the Lucha Brothers. Holy shit. Yeah, the Lucha House Party would be so fucking lucky. The Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Phoenix. You guys remember that ladder match from All Out and how crazy it was and how death-defying it was and the risks that those four guys took. Now, I didn't expect this match to be that, but I expected with Kofi in there and maybe Big E. You know, Big E tends to be a little nutty at times. I expected some really high-flying shit. With Kofi being in there, I really expected them to be creative and just bump like crazy. That was not the case here. It's not the case here. And you know what? I didn't mind that at all. Because this match, without trying to be a huge spot fest, it wasn't overly risky for the sake of being risky, like I just mentioned, with several ladder matches we've seen throughout the year. It was more slow-paced, it was more thought out, and it was much more strategic than most recent ladder matches that we've seen. I feel bad for the Revival because they are truly, and I know I'm not the only one who thinks this. I know there are a lot of people in the community that don't like the Revival. They're not your cup of coffee. I honestly think, and I've been pushing for tag team wrestling for quite some time. I don't know why we aren't getting tag team wrestling the way we're seeing in other promotions in the WWE. I just don't get it. And I don't want to hear Vince McMahon finds no money in tag team wrestling. Every fucking time there's a main event match on Monday Night Raw SmackDown, it's a fucking tag team match. Don't try and sell me on Vince McMahon, not liking tag team wrestling. Every single week there's a meaningless tag team match on Raw or SmackDown. The Revival are masters of their craft. They really are. And it's literally the end of the road for them. You know it's the end of the road for them. WWE doesn't have any plans for them. They don't know where to put them or what to do with them. They're all over the place. They're feuding with the New Day. Now they're helping Baron Corbin for whatever reason. They were paired with Randy Orton. Vince didn't want to pair them with Randy Orton after Randy Orton wanted to be paired with them in a stable. He didn't want it. They're on Raw one week, then they're on SmackDown. They're the Raw Tag Team Champions. They move to SmackDown. They win the Tag Team Championships over there. All for what? All for what? Is this what you have planned for the Revival? Is this the best you got for Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson? Masters of their craft. I don't understand the lack of compassion you guys have for tag team wrestling. It's the end of the road for them, for what we see. And I hope that they leave. I hope that they leave for AEW. I hope that they really leave. And WWE really hasn't done anything to really solidify tag team wrestling. There's no point in them staying. There's no point in tag teams outside of WWE who are interested in signing with the company to even sign with the company, because take a look at what's going on here. Nothing awaits you. Nothing. Now, when the New Day want to stop throwing pancakes and stop the fucking gyrating and the silly antics, and they actually want to show up to work, they are arguably the best tag team in the world. That's exactly what they did here. Yeah, they threw the pancakes, and yeah, they were doing their typical shtick, but when you get down to business with the New Day, they could go up against any team in the world, and they could arguably, like I said, be the best tag team on the planet. That's exactly what they showed here today. I love Serious New Day. I think they're fucking great. It also looked like Kofi had a lot of spotlight here to shine, as if it was almost a slight make-good for what the company did to him after he dropped the title to Brock Lesnar on the debut of SmackDown in 7 seconds, or the debut of SmackDown on Fox in 7 seconds. Now, I thought this match was great. This was a clear indication of where tag team wrestling could be if WWE embraces it. Let's get these guys some competition. Let's get these guys a division. Because right now, WWE is one of the worst tag team divisions in the sport, when they shouldn't, because with the caliber of teams that they have right now on the main roster, I just don't understand how that could even be a thing. It's downright sickening. Let's get tag team wrestling to a point where it could thrive once again. I know I'm speaking to a fucking brick wall when I say this. I even tweeted Paul Heyman after the Viking Raiders match with the OC tonight. It is outright fucking just deplorable how tag team wrestling is treated on these shows. Let's do better. The Revival were first to grab the ladders, but the New Day stopped them before they could bring the ladders in the ring. Big E throws Dawson over the announce table early. He came back quickly from that as he threw Big E into the steps. Kofi goes headfirst into the LED board on the ring apron. Now a ladder is on the ring apron. Kofi did some leaps and jumps to get away from the Revival's ladder attacks, and he actually jumped off the middle rope to literally throw himself onto a ladder to take both members out in the Revival. The Revival were holding the ladder at both ends, and Kofi did a dive over the ropes, or a dive off the ropes, I should say, onto the ladder and pretty much risked his own fucking well-being to take out the Revival in that spot. Match is still taking place on the outside. Nothing has been done in the ring so far. This match has been contested mostly on the outside for the first opening seconds. Big E had Wilder back first on the ladder, hanging off the apron. He went for a big splash, and Dawson pulled Wilder to safety. Big E hit nothing but ladder on the way down, missing the splash. Kofi then, with a truss dive out of nowhere, he gets caught and thrown into the same ladder. Revival in the ring, setting up the ladder now to climb for the titles. Both men, you got Dawson and Wilder climbing up. Big E with a belly-to-belly to Dawson, pulls Wilder down. Big E climbing. Dawson with a drop kick, I should say. Dawson with a drop kick off the top rope to the ladder. Knocks the ladder and Big E down at the same time. Big E's knee is the issue. He came down and wrenched his knee on the ladder. Big E's in the corner with the ladder crotched in his nether region. And the Revival with a basement dropkick to Big E's pancakes down below. So that was that. Big E double suplexed face first on the ladder. Kofi back in the ring, 2-on-1. Kingston off the top, jumps onto the ladder, hanging through the middle rope. There was a ladder hanging through the middle rope, and he used it as a seesaw. He smashes it into Wilder and Dawson's face. So he jumps, the other end hits the Revival in the face. The New Day now with a 2-on-1 advantage to Dawson. Big E had a stretch muffler on Dawson, and Kofi took the ladder and smashed it into Dawson's knee. So, revenge there on the knee. Big E had the knee, now it's Dawson's knee. They set the ladder up. Revival up now. Wilder throws Big E out of the ring. Kofi's fighting off both the Revival. They shove the ladder in. And an incredible fucking spot, probably the spot of the entire evening. This is unbelievable. You have to go out and watch this for yourself, because I'm not going to do it any justice. They shoved the ladder. Kofi's on the ladder. Both Dawson and Wilder shoved the ladder. And Kofi, on the way down, it looked like he was going over the top rope. On the way down, as the ladder is falling, he's holding on to the ladder. He balances himself on the top rope on the way down, stops the ladder mid-fall, stops the momentum of Dawson and Wilder pushing the ladder, and he jumps off the top rope into a crossbody on Dawson. In one transition, he hits a Trouble in Paradise on Dash Wilder, climbs back up the ladder. The Revival pull him down into a Shatter Machine. That entire sequence was probably spot of the night for the entire pay-per-view. Unbelievable. Like I said, this was a Kofi spotlight. They gave him the spotlight to shine here as a make good, because he's looked like shit coming out of the debut on Fox for SmackDown, losing the title to Brock Lesnar in 7 seconds. He has not looked the same since his title reign. And this was a make good. I do believe this was a make good for Kofi Kingston here at TLC. Both men now climbing up. Big E takes Dawson into the steel post. Wilder on the apron, and Big E with a fucking unbelievable spear through the ropes. You know how Big E likes to kill himself with that suicide dive / spear on through the ropes. He absolutely took out Wilder. Big E with the ladder now rams it into Dawson's midsection. Takes the ladder on the outside and brings the ladder into the ring. He takes a second ladder into the ring. 2 ladders now set up in the middle of the ring. Big E goes out for a third ladder, brings that into the ring. And he sets the third ladder up against the turnbuckle and one of the other ladders in the middle of the ring. He creates a bridge, typical of WWE ladder matches. There's always a bridge spot in these ladder matches. Dawson laid out face first on the ladder. Big E on the top rope. Wilder stops him. Crotches E on the top turnbuckle. Dawson suplexed Big E on the ladder, and it didn't break. It didn't break because I don't know what had happened. Big E came down in the suplex. He hit his shoulder or his elbow on the way down on the ladder. It looked like where they positioned to do that type of move, there was not enough space to do a full-on, full-fledged superplex, so they had to kind of cut it short. It was a botch spot, which looked even worse than the original move planned, so it didn't break. They didn't have enough room to complete the vertical suplexes from what I seen. Wilder with a splash to Big E, which finally broke the ladder as intended. Revival climbing up now. Kofi leapt from the opposite turnbuckle onto one of the other ladders. There was 2 ladders in the middle of the ring. He jumped onto one of the ladders on the opposite end. Battle on the 2 ladders. Kofi is left hanging through the ladder. So he's in one of the rungs of the ladder, and he's literally in a seated position hanging off the ladder. So at this point, you knew something was going to happen here. So Kofi is left hanging through the ladder. He's in one of the rungs, just in a seated position. Big E to the rescue. Big E with a big ending to Wilder off the ladder. Dawson now up there by himself. Kofi still hanging. He pulls himself up, does Kofi Kingston, as Dawson at the same time is reaching for the titles, hanging above. Kofi grabs the titles. He smashes the titles into Dawson's face. Dawson flies off backwards into the ladder that was down below that Big E had gone through, and he goes through the rubble of the ladder. He sits up. He gets himself balanced. Kofi Kingston's up top. He grabs the titles, and the New Day retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles in what I thought was an excellent opening match and an excellent ladder match that did not try to go crazy. It was more strategic. The spots were creative, and they seemed still dangerous, but they didn't go over the top. Everything was nicely done and nicely paced for a ladder match. And these 2 teams, they are at the top of their divisions in any company. You got the New Day and the Revival. This was an excellent match. I highly recommend you guys go out and watch this if you did not watch the pay-per-view this evening. Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black. This was one of the matches that I was looking forward to most. The other thing I was looking forward to most was Bray Wyatt and how they would portray Bray Wyatt coming out as regular Bray Wyatt and not the Fiend. This was exactly what it should have been. Aleister Black wins with Black Mass. They're setting him up for big things, I hope, in the new year. This is exactly what it should have been. Hard-hitting, physical, and physical with blood. Now, this was not intended for this match. It just happened. I don't know where. I don't know when. But Aleister Black bleeding in this match. Could have a broken nose. I don't know yet. We'll find out tomorrow. But Aleister Black adding some color in this match. Unintended. This really added much more to the match than originally planned. And it got the crowd much more invested seeing Aleister Black bleeding from his nose. Both of these guys are absolutely fantastic, and it makes you wonder how the Monday Night Raw mid-card, with as much talent as they have on that show, is as bad as it is right now. Should not be in its current state with guys like this performing at this level. I'm sorry. And I don't know who is watching this. There might be somebody from WWE watching this. Buddy Murphy or Aleister Black, for all I know, could be watching this. You guys are fucking fantastic at what you do. How you're on Raw and the mid-card is in its current state right now. Garbage is inexcusable. It is absolutely inexcusable. After this, and the reception that these guys got, and the match that they put on, I'm sure we'll see it 4 more fucking times. Because WWE doesn't have a creative bone in their fucking body to give these guys anything meaningful. Let's get both of them in some sort of meaningful direction. Start featuring these 2 guys in 2020 the way that they should be featured, because they're the future of this fucking company. I can't stand to see guys like Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black wasted. Aleister Black was a fucking unbelievable force in NXT. Buddy Murphy, how you cannot respect where he came from teaming with fucking Wesley Blake, you know, with Alexa Bliss back in the early days of NXT. Look at what he has transformed himself into. This guy could put on a 5-star match with anybody on this fucking planet, and he's wasting away on Monday Night Raw, doing nothing. These guys should be vying for titles. Have this match mean something. Wins and losses need to matter on Raw. That mid-card is too talented to be wasted. I hope to see these guys flourish in 2020. Aleister Black is sporting green wrestling trunks instead of the traditional black trunks he is accustomed to wearing. I don't understand it. Maybe we'll have some reason for it in the dirt sheets. Aleister Black not wearing black. Kind of bizarre. Both men sitting Indian style in the middle of the ring. Obviously, Murphy taunting Aleister Black. Black went for Black Mass immediately as the bell rung. Of course he would, because as soon as he hits it, it's over. Very fast-paced, even through the first 2 minutes. Mind games thrown in. Good stuff here. Black with an armbar that grounded Murphy for a little bit. Murphy tried to come back, but Black leveled him with 3 stiff kicks right to the chest. Murphy on the outside. Black went for a punt kick. Murphy stops it, launches Black into the steel post, and then smashed him face first into the steel steps. This had to be one of these two spots. I don't know how hard or in which direction Aleister Black hit the steel post, but it had to be, from what I seen, the steel steps that busted Aleister Black open hard way. I hope he's okay. I hope he doesn't miss any time, but he was pretty much bleeding throughout most of the rest of this match here. So he goes right into the steel steps face first. Murphy in control now for the first time in this match, and obviously Murphy threw some mocking in there. He threw some mind games in there to Aleister Black. The shot on the steel steps definitely busted open Aleister Black from what I could tell. Not sure if it was the steel post or the steps, but I'm going to go with the steel steps. So both are on the outside now. Black goes face first into the commentary table. Murphy grabs Black's jacket, because the jacket was sitting with the timekeeper. So he goes to the timekeeper and asks for Aleister Black's ring attire. He grabs his jacket. He goes into the ring. He starts putting the jacket on to mock Aleister Black. Black obviously gets up. He sees this. He starts getting angry. So he big boots Murphy right in the face. So we got Aleister Black now with some big-time intensity. Murphy is down. Black with a Shining Wizard. Big roundhouse kick. Knee to the jaw. Moonsault. All in one motion. Aleister Black's got some very impressive offense. And Black goes for a cover. Only gets a 2 count. Black goes for Black Mass. Murphy stops it. Black on the apron now with Murphy. And Murphy goes spine first into the steel post. Black with his Acai Moonsault off the second turnbuckle. And he hits it. Connects it. Back in the ring, Black with a jumping knee, goes for another cover, only gets a 2 count. Murphy up top now. Black is going for what I think is a superplex. Murphy pushed him away, and Black delivers a jump kick right to Murphy. So they're both back up top now. Murphy blocks the superplex again, and goes for a sunset bomb. Black blocks the sunset bomb, and Black is still in the position that he was in with the sunset bomb. And being that Murphy realized that he wasn't going to get Black off the top rope, he decided to kick Black in the face with his head in between his legs as he stood there 3 times. Kicked him in the face 3 times, hanging him up on the top turnbuckle, running. Sit-out powerbomb out of the corner for Buddy Murphy. Gets a very close near fall. Murphy has Black and starts yelling, "You wanted to fight, you wanted to fight." So he's mocking Aleister Black some more. They both trade some shots. Murphy hits Black with a completely wicked V-trigger. So he was on spaghetti legs, was Aleister Black. Black came out of nowhere, and this is what makes the Black Mass so good. Even after the V-trigger, Black just can throw that Black Mass in any which direction, in any fucking way he's standing. Even after a devastating knee like that from Murphy, comes out of nowhere with the Black Mass. 1, 2, 3, absolutely murdered Buddy Murphy with the Black Mass. This was awesome for what it was. And at this point, I'm looking at TLC, and I'm saying, so far, so good through the first hour. I want to see more from these two. I don't want to see these guys go at it 4 more fucking times. I'll take another shot of this, please. I'll take a second round. But I don't want to see these guys for the next 2 months going one-on-one, on Monday Night Raw. These guys need something more important to do in the mid-card. I'm tired of watching these guys just flounder in the middle of nothing on Monday Night Raw. They need something important to do. Start building your future. The Viking Raiders versus the OC. This was for the Raw Tag Team titles. This was an open challenge. And we had an open challenge on Raw. We got an open challenge here at TLC. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. The Viking Raiders won. The Viking Raiders won this. Actually, no. The Viking Raiders did not win. They retained the titles, but they did not win the match. This one went to a double countout. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, quite honestly, I could not give a single shit about what I seen here. I'm sorry. I'm a huge fan of the Viking Raiders. I really am. I love what Ivar and Eric have done in NXT. Hanson and Rowe. I got to call them by their new fucking names. Ivar and Eric. This was awful. This was absolutely awful. I don't know how the Viking Raiders, could be looked at as successful this year. I really don't. How they've been treated this year may be some of the worst booking I've seen in recent memory. I really do. And, yeah, they're the tag team champions, but what does it really mean in the end? What does it really mean if the Viking Raiders are the tag team champions? It means absolutely nothing. They have nothing around them to even make them a successful tag team. They have no division. They have no competition. The way that they've been booked has been miserable. They have no solid storyline for anything that they've done since they've been called up. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. With anyone over the titles, you figured, that they would have some sort of build for a title defense. They don't even have that. WWE can't even do that correctly. Even in winning the titles, they haven't even felt important in winning the titles originally from the OC. They were given the titles because they were the only other legit tag team on Raw outside of the OC. And even this match means nothing. And the OC are the guys who actually are the only other team in the WWE, the only other team on Raw to have given the Viking Raiders their first loss on Raw since being called up from NXT. How could they fuck that up? Why did you even beat them in the first place at Crown Jewel? For what? What was the point if this was all you had for them? Now, there needs to be some sort of division for these guys. They need some sort of division to legitimately raid. Because I don't know what you're raiding. They're coming off wanting a raid. And meanwhile, they'll show up on Monday Night Raw. They'll probably get a rematch with the OC, which means nothing. And then after that, they'll probably be right back to squashing fucking local 7-Eleven employees on Monday Night Raw. It's disgusting. Why is tag team wrestling an afterthought? And why has it been so long an afterthought? I don't get it. What tag team would ever think of coming to the WWE? And I mentioned this before with the Revival. Why would any tag team outside of the WWE wall think about coming to the company after seeing what is going on in both divisions and how these teams are being treated on weekly television? What makes you think the treatment of these divisions are going to keep anyone that's currently here to stay? Now, the OC stayed because they were all about the money. The Revival are the next to go. And I hope that they honestly do leave the company. They're not doing anything to keep these teams that might have contracts up at the end of the year or contracts up in 2020. They're not doing anything to keep these current teams here. Something needs to change and fast. The OC didn't have any interactions with the Viking Raiders for the entirety of the build for this show. If you wanted a true open challenge, why couldn't it have been the Usos? If you really want an open challenge, you really want to live up the gimmick of an open challenge, why not have a surprise team like the Usos come out? They aren't doing much of anything. I doubt WWE is going to throw them into anything important and reward them for what they previously did or what Jimmy and Jay have done with their extracurricular activities. They could have beaten the Usos, and it could have been a nice little feather in the cap of the Viking Raiders to beat a team like the Usos, a team that Bray Wyatt had personally stated is the tag team of the decade. Why couldn't you go out there and be a little bit unpredictable like that? That would have added a nice little element of surprise to this show and actually made the match a little bit more enjoyable, being that the Usos and the Viking Raiders is a match that I would like to see. I'd like to see it built up and mean something, but if you want to play up the open challenge stipulation, then make it a true open challenge. When the OC came out, I sighed very deeply, and I really didn't pay attention to anything that these guys did in the ring because, quite frankly, I don't care. Now, they also could have saved the Street Profits. They gave you an open challenge on Monday Night Raw, and they squashed the Street Profits in 3 minutes. Why you couldn't save the Street Profits if you wanted an open challenge here on the pay-per-view? Could have given them 10, 15 minutes to do what they do because they wrestled in NXT, and they actually did a damn good job down there. I don't know why you couldn't save them instead of squashing them on Monday Night Raw in 3 minutes. Now, a lot of you guys are probably saying, JD, what about AOP? No. Why do AOP need the titles? Why? If you give them the titles, where do they go there with the titles? They'd be right in the same position as the Viking Raiders. It means nothing. The titles should mean something. First of all, the division should mean something so that the Viking Raiders have fucking competition. So when they do lose the titles, they'll lose it to a fucking credible team and not on a whim, not on an open challenge, not to a team that's just as dead as they are. If you want the AOP to be tag team champions, have them take the titles from a meaningful fucking team. Have them take the championships when the championships actually mean something. Right now is not the time for that. So for everybody saying AOP, what is going to be accomplished if you give the AOP the open challenge, have them beat the Viking Raiders, and have them win the tag team championships? You're right back in the same boat as the Viking Raiders are. You can't do that. There's no sense in switching the championships if the championships mean nothing upon switching them. This is the open challenge. It's a crutch. These open challenges are fucking crutches. It's a crutch for bad booking. In this case, non-existent booking. They have to change the divisions and do better. I am tired of looking at both of these divisions on these shows, and they're just painful to watch every single week. Now, at the beginning of this match, we've seen 4 lucky, or in this case, unlucky fans sitting at ringside. They had a promotional Kentucky Fried Chicken contest. Legitimately, this was KFC sponsoring this segment. So they had a huge table with Kentucky Fried Chicken, banner and everything. There was mashed potatoes and mac and cheese, a bucket of greasy chicken, some biscuits. I know you guys like the biscuits. I like the biscuits myself. Lightly buttered, you know. Now somewhere, Titus is jealous. I gotta mention this because this is in the news. Now don't kill the messenger here. I'm just giving you the fucking scoop. I can't reveal my sources. Apparently Titus was jealous. Maybe Titus got the night off from catering. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I can report that Titus was going around the locker room yelling that his secret recipe is more over than the Colonel's secret recipe. I'm not sure. I know Titus does his vegetables better than the Colonel, but I'm not sure about the secret recipe on the chicken, man. I'm not sure. I think Matt Hardy likes the mashed potatoes with KFC more than he does with Titus. I'm not sure. I got to find out this full-fledged report. I'll report back to you guys when I have all the information correct. Now, the Viking Raiders and the OC, they go to a double countout. Why? I don't fucking know. Only thing I can think of is that the Raiders, they beat the OC. Who else do they have to feud with? Nobody. So we'll probably get this match tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw. The KFC table at the beginning of the match, apparently Ivar was not given his side of mac and cheese and decided to take his anger out on Carl Anderson and put him through the table. This was terrible. The fact that the KFC table was the most over thing in this match over the tag team titles and the teams that were competing in this match for the tag team titles is quite pathetic. But I'm sure that KFC is pleased with that nice product placement on a WWE pay-per-view. Garbage. Do better. Baron Corbin, Roman Reigns, TLC match. I know I'll have the Roman Reigns haters coming at me with fucking pitchforks at the end of the evening. The less I say about this, the better. This was an absolutely poor rendition of a TLC match. I wouldn't even call it a TLC match. I really wouldn't. The entire TLC stipulation in this match was added to this match for this show because Vince McMahon simply wants to punish us. He hates us. He hates our fucking guts. And this is the easiest way for WWE to continue this garbage on weekly television. Now, thankfully, there was no open cans of dog food brought into this match. No dog food came into play here outside of that one can that was closed, that was used as an illegal weapon, or I guess in this case, a legal weapon. But that didn't stop WWE from replaying the segment from 2 weeks ago where Roman Reigns was chained up like Jesus Christ and had dog food poured all over him, which was legitimately real dog food. I do not envy Roman Reigns in that spot. They replayed that over and over and over again. And on top of that, they replayed the segment where Roman Reigns had his theme music remastered in the Chihuahua mix. Please, you want me to get invested in what you got going on here in a TLC match, which you'd think would be a little brutal and Roman Reigns would be seeking revenge, right? Yet they just want to kill all of your excitement, what little you had of it. At this point, nobody had any fucking excitement going into this. I mean, when you hear that shit that you hated so much on weekly television, why would you even want to watch this thing? Why would you even want to watch this thing? Seriously. I had people texting me, what are you doing during this match, man? I'm surfing the fucking internet. I'm looking for new computer desks. Everybody was doing something else but watching this goddamn match. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a shit. I don't know one single person who is invested in anything these two guys are doing. I really don't. And if you are, you must be slow and have no brain functionality whatsoever. How is this exactly doing anything for Roman Reigns. I don't get it. Corbin looks like he's getting over as a heel, but he was already over as a heel coming out of the King of the Ring, and WWE took all of that real, genuine heat that he was getting because he won the King of the Ring, and they put him in a position where it's not genuine heat anymore, it's go-away heat. Nobody wants to see Baron Corbin on TV because he's a good heel. Baron Corbin is one of the most obnoxious, disliked heels, legitimately, in WWE that I've seen for years, and not in a good way. In every situation, he is just mind-numbingly boring. He's got some of the worst segments on TV, and it's more like channel-changing, go-away heat. There's no legit reason for me to hate this guy. Like, I consider myself a super fan of pro wrestling. Now, if I told you that Baron Corbin was playing a good heel, I know for a fact how a good heel is supposed to be portrayed. Baron Corbin is not playing a good heel. Baron Corbin is playing a heel that I don't want to see on TV. There's a difference. There's a Tommaso Ciampa, and then there's a Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's not playing a good heel. Tommaso Ciampa was one of the best heels of the entire decade. There's a huge difference. WWE doesn't realize that. These analysts and these fucking elitists don't realize that. There is go-away heat. It exists. Baron Corbin has go-away heat. When people are claiming that they don't want to see Baron Corbin on TV, it's not because he's playing a good heel. It's because his heel work is in a situation right now that is not wanted. And I don't know how this is actually making Roman Reigns look good, because Roman was actually starting to get over in a natural way. And this feud has honestly worked backwards for Roman Reigns. I don't want to see Roman Reigns on TV anymore because this is what we are getting, and it's actually making everything feel worse in regards to Roman Reigns. When Reigns gets his inevitable match against Bray Wyatt, he will be right back to where he was before he announced he had leukemia. It's coming. I don't give a shit who it's against. If it's against The Rock, if it's against Bray Wyatt, this guy is going to be the most hated man, and Seth Rollins can finally rest easy because his spot as the most hated man in the company will now go to Roman Reigns. This is not helping his cause. This is not helping his cause whatsoever. You got fans spewing hatred on social media right now that Roman Reigns was getting over. He was actually looking decent. And now he's right back to being, I don't want to see this guy on TV anymore. And that's because you have him in this fucking feud with Baron Corbin. It's not working. Everything is working backwards. Now, Baron Corbin won this match, by the way. Baron Corbin won this match. It reminded me of the 1994 Royal Rumble where Yokozuna, Jim Cornette, and fucking Mr. Fuji had every single goon that they paid off, every single heel in the company come out and bury The Undertaker in that casket match during the 1994 Royal Rumble. That was actually good. This was garbage. Baron Corbin won because he had help from every which way. Ziggler, the Revival, all his fucking black-shirted security guards. Everybody helped Baron Corbin in this match. It's like, I can't wake up from this fucking nightmare, and we have 6 more weeks of this feud on TV as we get into the Royal Rumble. Again, Vince McMahon hates us, folks. Vince McMahon hates us. Now, Baron Corbin came down on his throne as usual. When Reigns made his entrance, Corbin, from the ring, was ordering all his clowns to go and attack Roman. One by one, they got punched down. One was punched down. The other one was punched and then put through a table. Corbin then said, enough is enough. You guys aren't doing what I ask. He took a steel chair. Went at Reigns himself. Corbin got thrown into the LED boards on the stage before taking advantage, and then both men were fighting in the crowd until they made their way back to the ringside area. I actually took notes for this match, but I don't know why I did, but I did. Back in the ring, Corbin got the first near fall of the match off of a beautiful deep 6. Reigns totally on the defense here after Corbin throws him into the steel post, shoulder first, and then into the barricade on the outside, back first. Reigns showed a few signs of a comeback. He entered the ring and Corbin kicked the middle rope, crouching Reigns in his kibbles and bits. There you go. On the middle rope, and then he throws Reigns into the steel steps. He takes a ladder to Reigns' midsection and then over his back. Back in the ring, goes for another cover and a 2 count. Corbin grabs a chair, smashed it over Reigns' back, so Reigns is completely on the defensive here in this match. Corbin places the chair in between the turnbuckles, so you clearly know that the heel, being that he positioned it there, is going to go through that spot with the chair. Reigns comes back with some clotheslines, big boot, and a setup for the Superman punch, but Corbin evaded it and delivered a chokeslam backbreaker, which looked brutal, to Roman Reigns. Corbin obviously went through the chair that was in the corner. No shit. Superman punch by Reigns, and Corbin kicks out at 2. Roman rolls to the outside, grabs the table, brings it back in the ring. Corbin sees this and rolls out of the ring. He goes underneath the ring and smashes Reigns in the head with a closed can of dog food. So I'm glad we didn't get an open can. I swore I thought I was going to see Baron Corbin get dog food pour all over him. I thought the big dog Unchained was going to wreak havoc here in his yard. Thank God we didn't. But I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's not the last we've seen of the fucking dog food either between these two guys. So Corbin now clearing off the American announce table. Then he goes to the German announce table. He tosses Roman outside. Both on the table now. Corbin looking for what I think is a power bomb, but Reigns powers a reversal and delivers a Samoan drop through the German announce table. Roman runs around the ring looking for a spear. He was about to spear Corbin through the timekeeper's area, and Dolph Ziggler comes out of nowhere wearing a Bobby Roode t-shirt. He must have come from underneath the ring. I don't know where else he fucking came from. He's wearing a Bobby Roode t-shirt, super kick to Reigns. He rips the t-shirt off like Hulk Hogan. Ziggler beats the hell out of one of the ring tech guys for whatever reason, pulls out handcuffs, and they were about to tie Roman Reigns up against the ring post like they did on SmackDown. Reigns took Corbin and Ziggler out with a drive-by. Reigns grabbed the kendo stick from underneath the ring, and 5 or 6 different fucking clowns, security guards, hired by Baron Corbin, come out, and they all run out. Literally, I think one of them was Leon Ruff from Evolve. It looked like it. They all ran out, and they all had their arms in the air running. They were literally looking like fucking clowns popping out of a clown car. They all ran down with their arms out. Reigns is swinging like fucking Kirby Puckett, in Minnesota. Don't remind me of the 1991 World Series, please. Swinging like fucking Kirby Puckett, right? And every one of these guys got their arms up running at Reigns as he's just smashing him in the midsection with a kendo stick. So he blasts all of them with the kendo stick. The Revival come out. They're assisting Corbin in this thing to take Reigns out. Wilder taken out with a Superman punch. Same thing to Dawson. Corbin clotheslined over the top. Everyone that Reigns took out, all the security guards, Ziggler, Corbin, the Revival, all of them bunched up like a fucking clogged artery. Reigns is in the ring. He does his stupid fucking dive over the top rope. This is what the big dog is all about, says Michael Cole, who was god-awful on commentary. So, Reigns flies over the top, takes everybody out, back in the ring. Ziggler throws a chair right in Reigns' face, followed by a zigzag. The Revival in with a shatter machine. Corbin with an end of days on Reigns, onto a steel chair. And Baron Corbin gets the win. Baron Corbin gets the win. So we have 6 more weeks of fucking SmackDown with these two guys feuding. You want me to get the bleach ready? I'll serve it over rocks every single week for you guys, because I know I'm not. I know I'm not ready for this shit. I don't believe that we have to sit through 6 more weeks of it. What the fuck are they even feuding over? This is awful. This is absolutely god-awful. By the time Reigns gets to his Universal Championship match at WrestleMania, this guy's going to be the most hated fucking guy in all of WWE. This is not doing any of these guys any favors at all. This feud is booked for the mentality of a fucking 5-year-old, and it needs to end. It needs to end. I don't know how anybody could justify what we've seen. This was a fucking disgusting display of a TLC match. It wasn't even worth a TLC name. Why even book this shit on this pay-per-view? Completely garbage. If you guys go back and watch it, this is something you can obviously fast forward through because this is not worth anybody's fucking time. Bray Wyatt and The Miz. This was a non-title match. No Universal Championship on the line. This was one of the matches that I was looking forward to most, not because of The Miz and Wyatt, but because of how they are going to portray Bray Wyatt away from the Fiend character. Now, first of all, I want to say it's nice to see Bray Wyatt in natural light here and not in the red. I'm glad we don't see him in the red. Bray Wyatt wins this match and retains the Universal Championship, which I think everyone kind of expected here. Wyatt pinned The Miz with Sister Abigail. Now, his performance here was top-notch. His performance tonight was absolutely brilliant. dipping in and out of the good and the evil, and he's dipping out of the good and the evil, acting like a complete sociopath, and not many people would be able to pull this type of character off as good as Wyndham Rotunda. His facial reactions and the way he was going about doing his good and evil, and the way he was trying to, convince The Miz not to hurt him, and he wanted to be a good guy. He didn't want to really hurt The Miz, because that's not what Bray Wyatt's about. It's more of the Fiend. It was just simple, and it was effective, and it was brilliant. I loved it. The sheer differences between Wyatt and the Fiend is so refreshing, and it's a refreshing sight that it adds such a real dimension to his entire act. You got two vastly different personalities, and I love the fact that they finally put him in this version of the character in the ring and let him do what he had to do tonight. All for the sake of telling a story. There was no need for the Fiend to be in this match with The Miz. It was all Bray Wyatt, and I'm glad that they actually went that route. It adds a real dimension to his act. The Miz could have been a little bit more intense, being that Wyatt came for his family. Wyatt infiltrated his family's home and, messed around with Monroe Sky. But The Miz was good here as well. The match itself really didn't do all that well for me. I didn't really care for the match at all. The Miz could have been a little bit more intense, being that Wyatt came for his family, but Wyatt selling for The Miz here was the right way to go. I don't mind The Miz in this spot getting a ton of offense on Bray Wyatt, because this is what the match called for. Wyatt is not the Fiend. So The Miz to get a lot of offense on Bray Wyatt, I don't mind it, as long as it's not Bray Wyatt's version of his evil, which is the Fiend. Now, Wyatt winning, with the only real offense here being a Sister Abigail, plays off of his character. It plays up to his character. The match itself was completely underwhelming. But again, I don't think anybody expected much from this match to begin with. The Miz was only here because WWE wanted this match at Survivor Series, and because of the ties with Bryan. Now you see why the match shouldn't have been built going into the Survivor Series. Nobody was going to get interested in a Fiend versus Miz match at the Survivor Series. And being that Bryan, was added to this thing, and The Miz is enemies or natural enemies with Daniel Bryan, it gives The Miz that much more meaning for being in this feud instead of being in this thing by himself. Nobody was going to buy into this with The Miz and Bray Wyatt, or The Miz and The Fiend. Being that Bryan got added to this thing and The Miz is added because of his ties to Bryan, it all has so much more meaning. It's so much more well-rounded. So I got to give kudos to WWE for adding Bryan and The Miz to this entire feud, because as a threesome, it just adds that much more depth. And if WWE even wants to go and prolong this thing even further, because on SmackDown, who does Bray Wyatt have to feud with outside of Roman Reigns? There's nobody. There's nobody even built up to go against The Fiend or Bray Wyatt at the Elimination Chamber. If you want to do a triple threat match at the Royal Rumble with The Miz, Bryan, and The Fiend, or The Miz, Bryan, and Bray Wyatt, that's fine. But if you want to give me that and then save Bryan and The Fiend for Elimination Chamber, I could deal with that. I don't mind that at all, because I think the storytelling here is what we're all here for, and I think that Bryan and The Miz are really doing a great job so far with what they're trying to tell. Now, Bryan coming out after Wyatt, and everybody thinking it was The Fiend, or Bray Wyatt also thinking it was The Fiend, and The Fiend would be appearing, was a nice touch, and seeing him after Wyatt changed him. I didn't mind it as I thought it would be completely worse than what we've seen. I thought I was absolutely going to hate it. He looked great. The beard can always come back, but if Bryan and Wyatt have creative license over what we see here, I would rather see a compelling storyline from these two, and I think trading the beard and the hair is actually a fair deal. It's the best storyline on the main roster right now, and nothing is even close, and they have my full attention. I'm very much looking forward to their match at the Royal Rumble, which will be 6 years to the event next month, which is 6 years ago, which was Wyatt and Bryan at the Royal Rumble in 2014, which I've said many times over the podcast was Bray Wyatt's best singles match in his career. So I'm very much looking forward to it. But like I said, I don't mind if WWE wants to add The Miz and keep The Miz in this thing, have a triple threat match with The Miz, Bryan, and Bray Wyatt, and then maybe save, because the Elimination Chamber is going to be 3 weeks after the Royal Rumble, save Bryan and The Fiend for the Elimination Chamber. See what happens, man. WWE has a few avenues, so it's going to be very interesting to see which route that they take. Miz came out first, nothing new here. Bray Wyatt came out to the Firefly Funhouse theme, wearing his Mr. Rogers sweater. He jumped on the American announce table, started saying that he's really excited about this. He played up to the crowd with the Universal title. Chants of Yowie Wowie. Bell rang. Miz came right after the Miz, attacked him with some knees and some kicks. But all the while, Wyatt was trying to reason with him, which he didn't really want to hurt the Miz. He wanted to talk to the Miz and really calm him down. Wyatt finally tried some offense, but Miz fought him off and hit some knees in the corner. Wyatt grabbed him, set up for Sister Abigail, but Miz slapped Wyatt and hit a skull-crushing finale. Miz didn't go for the cover. Instead, he wanted to punish Bray Wyatt some more, ramming his face into the mat. Miz tried a submission. Crowd kind of fell flat for this. They were just waiting for the ending because I don't think anybody really gave The Miz any credit here. They didn't expect The Miz to win this thing. So the crowd was really silent up until about the ending. Wyatt was laughing all through this because he started to dip from that good, please, Miz, let's talk about this, to evil. And then he got really sinister. Wyatt was laughing as The Miz applied a hold and encouraged him to do it. Broke his arm, he did that arm breaker that Pentagon usually does. He did that. Wyatt rolled out of the ring, and being that The Miz snapped his arm back, the commentary team, which was probably the best thing that they did all night, was selling this as him trying to pop his shoulder back in because he was ramming his shoulder into the barricade, which I thought was a nice spot in this match. So Wyatt was really going crazy. They didn't really understand what he was doing. He was absolutely losing his mind. So Wyatt is in the ring. He dodged the charge, gave The Miz a Sister Abigail. This was outside, off the barricade. Miz beat the 10 count barely, but Wyatt, back in the ring, gave him another Sister Abigail for the pinfall, and that was pretty much it. Bray Wyatt wins. He doesn't retain because this wasn't a championship match, but he beats The Miz. And after the match, The Fiend appeared on the Titantron, and the fans were chanting, "Let him in." So Wyatt looked on the screen, said, "Okay, I'll do it." Wyatt goes underneath the ring. He grabs his Firefly Funhouse mallet, the one that he squashed Rambling Rabbit with, and we see Daniel Bryan come out, and we all thought The Fiend was coming out because the lights were going off. So the lights go off. In the ring is Daniel Bryan. He's wearing a maroon hoodie. You really can't see what he looks like, but we know it's him because he delivered a running knee to Bray Wyatt. And Daniel Bryan revealed that he had shaved his head, cut his beard off, and he looks like he used to in Ring of Honor. The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, is back. And he was giving Wyatt some yes kicks. He hit him with another knee. Bryan then grabbed the mallet. He was about to smash Bray Wyatt with the mallet. Lights went out, and then when the lights came back on, Wyatt had disappeared, and this led to yes chants with Bryan looking at the Universal Championship that was left in the ring. This was awesome. I expected to fully hate what Daniel Bryan looked like, and we got Daniel Bryan not looking as bad as I expected. It looks like his old Ring of Honor days. I think this is great. And the fact that Bryan and Wyatt have creative license over this, and we're going to get some really well thought out, timed, and paced storytelling here, I'm very much looking forward to what they got going on. This is easily the best thing right now on main roster television. I'm very much looking forward to what they do, being that Bryan's back on SmackDown. Bobby Lashley with Lana versus Rusev. This was a tables match. I'm being completely honest with you. You guys can actually look at my iPad. I took notes for this match. I took notes for this match, sadly. I watched this match, but I did not really write, if you guys can see this, I did not write any post-match thoughts on this match. As you guys can see, let me show you here. I did write post-match thoughts for the Bryan match and everything else. You see there. See? Those are my post-match thoughts. I write everything out during the show. I did not write anything for this because I just don't give a shit. I don't know what else you guys want me to say. If you guys have been watching my weekly reviews, you know what I think of this. And the less that is said, the better. Now, I did take notes for this match, sadly, because I wanted to go over in detail what had happened here, just to show you guys and give you guys a glimpse of how garbage it really was. Rusev went for a table early. Lana pulled it out of the ring. She pulled the table out of the ring because this was a tables match. Now, the distraction allowed Lashley to attack him and hit him with a Dominator. Rusev fought back, gave him a vertical suplex on the ramp. Rusev tried to slam him through the table, but Lashley tipped the table over, slipped away, and drove Rusev into the steel steps. Now, Rusev tried to push Lashley off the apron, through a table, but Lashley avoided it. Rusev hit him with the steel steps, walked all the way to the stage to grab a metal bike rack, and then hit Lashley with that too. Rusev placed it on the apron, and then Lashley drove him through it. Well, one of the steel barricades that was in the fucking, the bowels of the building. I don't know where he got this thing from. I was barely paying attention to this shit. I don't care. Lashley grabbed the kendo stick, which we saw earlier, and he attacked Rusev with it. Lashley tried to hit him in the head with it, but Rusev grabbed it and attacked him with it. Rusev super kicked Lashley, then Lana jumped on Rusev's back, raked him in the eyes. Lana jumped off and Lashley drove Rusev into a table. It didn't break. Then immediately suplexed, overhead suplexed Rusev through a second table. Lashley wins. Crowd was fucking dead for this. Nobody gave a shit. You know, as over as WWE thinks Rusev is, this shit is absolutely killing fucking Rusev. This is embarrassing. This is another loss for Rusev here. I feel like just like the Reigns and Corbin thing, it's not over. This is not over. I just don't care. I just don't care. And I guarantee you we're set to see more of this fucking nauseating garbage on Monday Night Raw come Monday. Main event time. Main event time. Tables, ladders, and chairs. Women's Tag Team Championships. Asuka and Kairi Sane defending against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Asuka and Sane win to retain in 25 minutes. 25 minutes of a match that should not have been in the main event of this show. I don't understand how you could look at the disappointment that was the Survivor Series main event and then turn around and immediately book another women's match in the main event. Now, I love the women's division. I've been an advocate for wanting them to be a little bit more important. I've been an advocate to give the women some substantial storylines on TV. I want the division to flourish. I feel like there's a ton of talent that's not being used. It's not really a good indication as to how the talent in NXT is going to be used when called up, when they're called up. I can't justify this being a main event. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat anything, man. I'm tired of you guys feeding into an agenda. I really am. I'm tired of you sitting there being okay with WWE putting on this match in the main event. Because by the looks of what we've seen tonight, clearly by what we've seen in 25 minutes, this was no way the main event of the show. At all. I can't sit here and justify the women getting a main event because the women in 2020, you know, I'm not anticipating anything special from them. I'm not. Because what we got in 2019 after what we got in 2018 is vastly different. This is not the same women's division. It's not the same women's division or as strong as the women's division was in 2018 because there's no Ronda Rousey. There's no Ronda Rousey. You know, this reminded me of what we seen last year at TLC. Becky, Asuka, Charlotte. 3/4 of this tag team match was in the main event of TLC last year. You didn't see me complaining about those women getting the main event last year. You want to know why? Because they were the best thing on television. They were the best thing on television. They were actually outperforming the men for the last 4 months of 2018. You wouldn't have heard a peep out of me about that match main eventing because everybody, including myself, gave them one of the best matches of the year or voted that one of the best matches of the year. Same thing with Becky and Charlotte at Evolution, right? You didn't hear a peep out of us because in that moment, in that year, with the momentum they had, they deserved the main event. That was a main event match that could rival any main event match that WWE had put on all year. Can't say the same thing about the women's division this year. When the women's division has been given absolutely unimportant garbage through all of this year, and the tag team division is absolutely irrelevant to a point where it shouldn't even exist, where those tag team titles mean less than fucking the spare change that I have right now in my fucking jean pocket, should not be the main event. I don't give a shit what you think. Call me a sexist, call me against women's wrestling, call me out for being against women's wrestling, because I know it's not true. I know it's not true. Just listen to me on Wednesday and how I always brag and hype that NXT's got the best women's division probably ever. Ever. Can't say the same thing about the main event of this match. I can't say the same thing about the main roster women. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve another pay-per-view. Period. Until you start building this women's division up the way it should be built, by featuring other women besides the 4 horsewomen, who a lot of people right now are not really pleased with because they always get the spotlight. When you start building stories around these women for me and everybody else to fucking care about them, get off your fucking high horse and stop asking for a pay-per-view. You cannot book a pay-per-view for the sake of booking a pay-per-view if the talent means nothing. If your championships mean nothing. You know what gets us excited and invested in wrestling? It's storytelling. You know, I'm watching Breaking Bad. I've never watched Breaking Bad before. I'm already on season 4, about to head into season 5. I'm talking to myself while watching Breaking Bad, and I'm saying to myself, if Monday Night Raw was this interesting, if Monday Night Raw had storylines like this that were engaging and invested the fan into what they were trying to tell, how better off would Monday Night Raw be? How much would you care about the talent that's being portrayed on that show? I care about every single character on Breaking Bad, from Walter to Hank to his fucking bitch wife to his son to Gus. Now I'm worried about where I am. I'm worried about Gus being fucking killed. And he's the fucking ringleader behind everything. Hank's wife. I care about everybody. Do you want to know why? Because every single character has been in a story or a subplot for the entirety of the 5 fucking seasons that I've watched. For the first time, this is me watching this show for the first time. If Monday Night Raw was booked like that, or if WWE was booked like that, if the women's division was booked like that, if the tag team division was booked like that, then people would care. I want to go and watch the fucking show now that I'm talking about it because how interested I am to see what happens. I can't say the same thing about the women's division. I don't want to see another fucking tag team match after what I seen here tonight. This was awful. It was chaotic for the sake of being chaotic. It looked like this match was being called on the fly. Most of the time, these women look like complete buffoons and idiots in this match. The match had fucking logic holes and stupidity riddled throughout it. The tag team titles mean nothing. Why should I care? Why are you giving the women a main event match because they're Charlotte and Becky? Asuka and Kairi Sane didn't even look to be as good as I remember them to even warrant this main event match. This was bad. It was sloppy and it was bad. I can't sit here and justify anything for the women in 2019. Becky may have won the title. You may have gotten Ronda and Becky and Charlotte at WrestleMania for the first time ever. After that, that was the high point. That was the culmination of all your hard work. You fucking flushed it down the toilet with what you did this year. The women's division is going to look back at this year and say, I wish we didn't actually do half the shit that we did this year. It's going to be one of those things that they look back on and wish that they could erase, because the women's division was fucking terrible on Raw and SmackDown this year. No effort, no creativity. They didn't even try. It was the Becky and Charlotte show, and you did absolutely nothing to build up anybody else the entire year. Now, what are you going to do when Ronda and eventually Shayna Baszler come? You're going to push those two because they are who they are. What happens to all the other opportunities that you're supposed to be giving out to half the other fucking division? They're not even going to get an opportunity. Why? Because you're going to focus on who you want to focus on. You can't call it a division, and you can't call it a revolution if you're pushing the same fucking faces over and over again. The revolution was supposed to grant opportunity. The revolution is only giving opportunity to those who WWE deem worthy. And it sucks. And this match was the clear product of the entire state of the women's division. This was fucking awful. Charlotte and Lynch took turns chucking Sane onto the announce table. Start of this match, Asuka saved her by launching a chair into each of Becky and Charlotte's faces. Sane then drop-kicked a chair into Charlotte's face as it was being held there by Asuka. Lynch dropped Asuka face first onto the underside of a chair, then onto a ladder. Charlotte and Lynch then drove Asuka into the ring post. Sane then tried to comically throw chairs into the ring, the first of which she did not even eclipse the top rope. So at this point, I'm like, what am I watching? It's like I'm watching fucking 4 clowns parade around at the circus. Kairi Sane tried to throw a chair from the outside. She's the smallest woman in the entire fucking building. have her throw a chair into the ring, and it bounced off the ropes and hit her in the face. At that point, I knew I was watching a fucking circus. Then she tries to throw the chair in again. She makes it the second time. She throws another one. She fucking boomerangs it into the ring, right? Like she was fucking playing The Legend of Zelda, throwing the boomerang, trying to grab a fucking rupee, right? She throws it into the ring, and then she throws another one against the ropes, and it almost hit her in the fucking face again. I asked myself, what am I watching at this point? Crowd was laughing at her. She was freaking out. She obviously botched. She didn't know how to handle it. She didn't know what to do after that. Circus. Charlotte and Lynch went after her. She tried to hide underneath the ring. Did Kairi Sane? I would too if I fucking botched that way. Then they yanked her out. Sane was pulled out from underneath the ring, and she had a fire extinguisher in her hand, and she blasted both Charlotte and Becky in the face. Asuka then attacked with a bull rope. This was actually the highlight of the match. Watching Asuka just fling the rope around and around and around and act like a cowgirl was very entertaining to me. I love heel Asuka. If there's one thing to take away from this match, Asuka is a fantastic fucking heel. She's got so much more personality when she is in this role. I love it. So they slammed Lynch onto the ladder. Then they used that rope and they tied her to the fucking ladder. Like they were tying her to a bunch of railroad tracks. And they're waiting for the train to just run her over. So they attack Charlotte, toss her over the barricade, and then they start to wave goodbye. Goodbye. Charlotte's taken out. So this is where I mentioned that these women look like idiots in the middle of the match. You got Becky Lynch tied up to the fucking ladder. She ain't going nowhere. Charlotte was thrown over the barricade into the crowd. And Asuka and Kairi Sane are in the middle of the ring, and they're climbing the fucking ladder together. Now, I don't realize, what's going on here. I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, okay, this is just a regular spot. And then I'm watching it, and I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, why are these two women climbing the ladder when one of their opponents is tied up and the other is on the outside, not tied up? Do you need two women to climb the ladder to take the fucking titles down when it's a one-woman job? Why wasn't somebody outside holding Charlotte down in position so that Asuka could climb the title or Kairi Sane could climb to get the titles, and one of them is watching Charlotte and detaining her while they're winning the match? This is how the match came off. Asuka and Kairi Sane came off as two blithering idiots who allowed Charlotte to just sit there on her own with nobody watching her to come and stop what they were doing. I don't know who the fuck produced this match, but man, you got to go back and listen and watch this shit and look at how ridiculous it fucking looks. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, Charlotte tossed Asuka into a few chairs. Clearly, Charlotte stopped the title retention there. Charlotte tossed Asuka into a few chairs. She superplexed Sane into the barricade, or suplexed Sane into the barricade. Sane took a bad bump at that point. Charlotte tried to untie Lynch from the ladder, but Asuka attacked her with a chair. Sane tried an elbow drop, but Lynch got her knees up. She legitimately tried to do the insane elbow while Becky was tied to the ladder, and Becky got her knees up. Lynch also managed to kick Asuka, then broke free from the ropes. Charlotte had kind of loosened them a little bit ago. Lynch put Asuka through a table with a diving leg drop, which was not a leg drop, it was more of a seated senton, right through the table and landed right on Asuka's chest. It looked fucking brutal. So, Lynch and Charlotte tried to put Sane through a table, but she countered and dropped both of them with a double DDT. Sane placed both of them on a table, attempted a splash. Charlotte moved and Sane landed on Lynch, but it didn't break the table. Now, I don't know why the commentary team was so surprised that little old Kairi Sane didn't break the table when Becky Lynch moved out of the way. Kairi Sane is soaking wet 90 fucking pounds. Do you expect a 90-pound female to break the fucking table? Jesus Christ. They played it off, oh my god, the table didn't break, the table didn't break. Of course it didn't fucking break. Look at who's fucking trying to break the table. Anyway, so we get this. Sane landed on the table. She didn't break the table. Another messy sequence where Charlotte tried to spear Sane, but they screwed that up as well. Charlotte seemed to say, enough of this shit. Then she grabbed Sane, and it looked like Sane, I don't know if Sane was dead weighting Charlotte. Charlotte looked to struggle picking up Kairi Sane to a point where it's as if Kairi Sane was like a 400-pound fucking behemoth, and Charlotte muscled Sane up, eventually powerbombed her through a table, which came off as an unnecessary struggle. Asuka gave Charlotte a German suplex, dumped on a table by Lynch. Charlotte and Lynch fought back with chairs. Crowd was booing for whatever reason because they didn't want Becky Lynch and Charlotte to win this match. That was the reason why they were booing. Charlotte went for the top rope moonsault, but Asuka went and said, fuck this shit. I'm not going to have you have JD complain about it on his podcast. And she stopped Charlotte from doing the moonsault. Powerbombed her through a table on the outside. Lynch gave Asuka an exploder twice into a ladder. And Lynch climbed the ladder, almost grabbed the belts. Asuka yanked the ladder down with a bull rope that she tied to it earlier, which was probably the best spot of the entire fucking match. Made sense. And it was pretty cool to see Asuka tug on that thing and pull Becky Lynch down. Becky Lynch fell on the top rope. She barely grazed the top rope. Usually when something like that happens, I want to see someone bounce off the top rope. She barely grazed the top rope. Asuka climbed the ladder, grabbed the belts, and Asuka and Sane retain the championships. Asuka did not even get a second of TV time to celebrate because the brawl from Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns that still was happening after their match spilled out to the arena. The OC and the Viking Raiders were a part of this brawl too. I seen the New Day there. The Revival were there. So the final shot of the pay-per-view was Reigns spearing Corbin off of something, or with something, onto a pile of bodies, and that's the way the show went off the air. That was it. Terrible main event. An absolutely thumbs-down show after the first hour. And that's all I got for you. I don't know what else you want me to say. WWE ended the pay-per-view in a mediocre fashion. They ended the decade. They ended the last pay-per-view of the decade in mediocre fashion. We're going into a new year. In 2018, I said this is the worst year that WWE had creatively. And the ratings prove that. 2019, I can actually say that WWE topped what they did in 2018, and the ratings were even lower this year. They topped their lowest rating about 6 different fucking times this year. Do you expect anything different from 2020? I know I don't. And this pay-per-view goes to show you that you shouldn't expect anything different from WWE in 2020. Guys, I'm getting out of here. Thank you so very much for all of your support. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up. And I will talk to you guys during Raw. I'll be right back here during Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. Until then, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. It is very important for the video to do well on YouTube in the hours that it will be up on the channel. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206. It's on Twitter and Instagram. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. Check out all the other videos that you might have missed during the week. They will be linked down below in the description. And I will see you guys right back here for Monday Night Raw and the fallout from what was a very mediocre TLC pay-per-view. See you guys for Raw, and have a good night, guys. I'll see you then.